They say desperation makes people do crazy things. I never thought mine would change my life. 1 week ago, I hired a stranger to pretend to be my husband, just to save a merger, and maybe my daughter's future. But what started as a lie became the most honest thing I've ever known. My name is Ana, and this is my story. Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of Sterling Innovations as Ava Sterling stood frozen in her corner office, staring at the email that could destroy everything she'd built. Her hands trembled slightly, a crack in the armor she'd spent years perfecting. The subject line was simple: family values matter, merger concerns. Mr. Sato's investment team had been clear. No stable family structure, no $2 billion deal, and her ex-husband Grant knew it. The bastard had probably already whispered poison into their ears, painting her as the cold career woman who destroyed their marriage and traumatized their daughter. The worst part? Some of it was true. Ava's phone buzzed. Another message from Lila's school counselor. The 7th grade teacher was concerned. Lila hadn't spoken a single word in class for 3 weeks now. Not since the custody hearing where Grant had called Ava an unfit mother in front of everyone. The selective mutism that started after the divorce had only gotten worse, and every high-priced therapist in Seattle had failed to break through. She grabbed her coat and headed down to the cafe across the street, the one place where she allowed herself 15 minutes of something resembling normalcy each morning. The bell chimed as she entered, and there he was, Ethan Cole, the server with the warm smile and the patience of a saint. She'd watched him countless times, calming fussy customers, making small talk with regulars, always genuine, always kind. Today, a young boy was having a complete meltdown near the pastry case, and Ethan was crouched down at eye level with him. "Hey buddy, I see you're really upset right now," Ethan said softly. "Sometimes when we feel big feelings, our words get stuck, right? That's okay. Can you show me with your hands how big your feelings are?" The boy's screaming subsided to hiccups as he stretched his arms wide. Ethan nodded seriously. "Wow, that is big. You know what? I bet if we take 3 deep breaths together, we can make that feeling a little smaller. Want to try?" Within 2 minutes, the child was calm, sipping apple juice, and the grateful mother was thanking Ethan profusely. Ava ordered her usual macchiato, but her mind was racing. An idea was forming, desperate, outrageous, possibly brilliant. She waited until his shift ended, watching him collect his daughter Sophie from the corner booth where the 8-year-old sat doing homework. The girl had Ethan's warm brown eyes and an easy smile. They laughed together as they packed up, and Ava felt something twist in her chest. When was the last time Lila had laughed like that? "Mr. Cole?" Ava approached them outside. "I'm Ava Sterling. I'd like to discuss a business proposition with you." Ethan looked confused but polite. "I'm sorry, Miss Sterling, but I'm not really in a position to invest in anything right now." "I'm not asking you to invest. I'm asking you to work for me. 1 week of your time for $500,000. Sophie's eyes went wide. Ethan's expression shifted from confusion to suspicion. "What kind of work?" Ava glanced at Sophie, then back at Ethan. "Could we speak privately?" 20 minutes later, in a quiet corner of a nearby park while Sophie played on the swings, Ava laid out her proposal. With every word, Ethan's expression grew more incredulous. "You want me to pretend to be your husband? For a week? To impress some investors?" He shook his head. "Miss Sterling, I don't know what kind of life you're living, but that's not something I can do. Lying isn't really my thing, and I certainly can't drag Sophie into some corporate charade." $600,000, Ava said flatly. "My daughter Lila is 7 years old, and she hasn't spoken in over a year. Not since my divorce. I've tried 12 different therapists. Nothing works. But I watched you today with that child in the cafe. You have a gift. Help me save my merger, yes, but more importantly, help me reach my daughter." Ethan stood up. "I'm sorry about your daughter, truly, but the answer is no. Come on, Sophie." "I know who you are," Ava called after him. Ethan Cole, former pediatric speech therapist at Seattle Children's Hospital, one of the best they'd ever seen. "You quit 2 years ago after your wife died. I understand grief, Mr. Cole. I understand running from the things that hurt us. But what if this is your chance to stop running?" Ethan stopped walking. His shoulders tensed. When he turned back, his eyes were hard. Don't you dare use my wife's death to manipulate me into your schemes. I'm not manipulating. I'm offering you a chance to help a child who desperately needs someone like you. The money would change your life, change Sophie's life, and maybe, just maybe, you'd remember why you became a therapist in the first place. Daddy? Sophie had run over, sensing the tension. What's wrong? Ethan looked down at his daughter, then back at Ava. This is insane. $700,000, final offer, and you'd have complete control over Lila's care. No interference from me, no therapists contradicting you, nothing. Just you, doing what you do naturally. And Sophie? She'd come too. I have a 4-bedroom penthouse. She'd have her own room, everything she needs. 1 week, Mr. Cole, 7 days to help a little girl find her voice again. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, I need 24 hours to think about it. The next evening, Ethan stood outside Sterling Tower with 2 suitcases and Sophie clutching his hand. The little girl's eyes were huge as they entered the gleaming lobby. When the elevator opened directly into Ava's penthouse, Sophie actually gasped. The apartment was stunning and sterile, all glass, steel, and white marble. It looked like a museum, not a home. Ava stood in the center of the living room in designer jeans and a silk blouse, perfectly put together even in casual wear. Beside her stood a small girl with dark hair and enormous gray eyes that seemed to look right through everything. Lila. Hello, Ethan said gently, crouching down. You must be Lila. I'm Ethan, and this is my daughter Sophie. We're going to be staying here for a little while. Is that okay with you? Lila stared at him without expression, then looked at Sophie. The 2 girls studied each other in silence. She won't respond, Ava said quietly. She hasn't spoken since. I know, Ethan interrupted gently. He turned back to Lila. You know what? Sophie doesn't like to talk much in the mornings either. She's more of a drawer. Do you like to draw, Lila? The smallest flicker of something crossed Lila's face. Ethan noticed. Maybe tomorrow we could draw together, all 4 of us. Would you like that? Lila didn't nod, didn't shake her head, just turned and walked down the hallway to what Ethan assumed was her room. Don't take it personally, Ava said. She's like that with everyone. She's protecting herself, Ethan replied. And I don't take it personally. Healing takes time. Now where's Sophie's room? That first night was awkward. They had dinner delivered. Ava admitted she'd never actually cooked in her gourmet kitchen and ate in near silence. Lila picked at her food. Sophie tried to make conversation but gave up after a few attempts. Ava checked her phone obsessively. Only Ethan seemed comfortable, though he was carefully observing everyone. After dinner, he said, Tomorrow morning I'm making pancakes. Everyone eats together, no phones, no distractions. House rule number 1. Ava opened her mouth to object, then remembered their agreement. He had complete control. Fine, she said, but I have a 7 a.m. conference call. Then you'll take it after breakfast. The merger meeting isn't until Friday. We have 4 days, Ava. 4 days to become a family that Mr. Sato will believe in. That starts with breakfast. Something in his tone made her pause. He wasn't being cruel, just firm. And maybe, just maybe, he was right. The next morning, Ava woke to the smell of cooking. She stumbled into the kitchen to find Ethan at the stove, Sophie setting the table, and Lila standing in the doorway in her pajamas watching. Good morning, Ethan said cheerfully. Coffee's ready. Lila, would you like to help Sophie with the napkins? Lila didn't move. Ethan didn't push. He just kept cooking, humming softly. After a moment, Lila slowly walked to the table and picked up a napkin. She placed it carefully at one setting, then another. Sophie smiled at her. Perfect, Ethan said. Teamwork. That's house rule number 2. We help each other. Breakfast was strange, but somehow warmer than the night before. Ethan made funny faces with the pancakes, putting chocolate chips in patterns. He got Sophie to tell a story about school. He asked Ava about her favorite subject when she was young. He didn't directly engage Lila, but included her in everything, always making space for her without demanding participation. You know what I used to do with my students? Ethan said casually. We'd have music mornings. Everyone picks one song and we listen to it together. Maybe we could try that tomorrow? I called Taylor Swift, Sophie announced immediately. Ethan laughed. Noted. Ava, what's your pick? Ava looked startled to be included. I don't know. I haven't listened to music for pleasure in years. Then tomorrow you get to rediscover it. Lila, you can think about your song. No pressure, or you can just listen to everyone else's, whatever feels right. Over the next 2 days, subtle changes began to happen. The penthouse started feeling less like a showroom. Sophie's drawings appeared on the refrigerator. Ethan brought in plants. He convinced Ava to let him rearrange the living room so it felt more inviting. Music played during meals. There was laughter, mostly from Sophie, sometimes from Ethan, and occasionally, remarkably, from Ava. Lila remained silent, but she was watching everything. Ethan noticed her shadowing him sometimes, observing how he interacted with Sophie. Once, he was helping Sophie with homework at the kitchen counter and felt eyes on him. He turned to see Lila standing a few feet away. "Want to join us?" he asked. "Sophie's working on fractions. They're tricky." Lila hesitated, then slowly came closer. She didn't sit down, but she watched. 10 minutes later, when Sophie groaned about not understanding, Lila reached over, rearranged Sophie's blocks into a different pattern. Suddenly, the problem made sense. "Lila, that's brilliant!" Ethan exclaimed. "You're really good at this." The corner of Lila's mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. That evening, after the girls were in bed, Ava found Ethan on the balcony, looking out at Seattle's glittering skyline. "You're good at this," she said quietly. "Better than I thought possible. I just pay attention. Every child communicates, Ava. Sometimes words aren't the language they're using." "Why did you really quit the hospital?" Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "After Sarah died, my wife, I couldn't do it anymore. Helping other people's children find their voices while my own daughter was drowning in grief felt impossible. Every kid I worked with reminded me of everything we'd lost. So I ran. I took the easiest job I could find, something that didn't require my heart. And now I'm remembering why I loved it. Watching Lila today, seeing that tiny spark of connection, that's what I used to live for." He turned to look at Ava. "But there's something you need to understand. When this week ends, you can't just go back to the way things were. Lila's starting to trust us, to trust this version of family. If you rip that away, you'll do more damage than the divorce did." Ava's carefully constructed walls cracked. "I don't know how to be what she needs. I'm good at mergers and acquisitions, at reading contracts and closing deals. But being a mother, I'm failing at it every single day." "You're not failing. You're learning. The fact that you care enough to try this insane scheme proves you love her. Grant says I destroyed her. Maybe he's right. Grant is trying to control you through guilt. From what you've told me about him, that's his specialty. Don't let him." Before Ava could respond, they heard a sound from inside. Both rushed in to find Lila standing in the hallway, tears streaming down her face, clutching a drawing. Sophie was beside her, looking concerned. "She had a nightmare," Sophie whispered, "but she won't tell me what it was about." Ethan knelt down. "Hey, Lila, dreams can be really scary sometimes. Can you show me the picture you drew?" Lila held out the paper with shaking hands. The drawing showed stick figures, a tall man with angry scribbles around him, a small girl hiding behind a door, and dark clouds everywhere. "That's your dad, isn't it?" Ethan asked gently. "And that's you hiding?" Lila nodded, tears falling faster. "And you feel like you can't speak because if you do, he'll get angrier?" Another nod. Ava made a sound like she'd been punched. She moved toward Lila, but Ethan held up a hand, asking her to wait. "Lila, I want you to know something very important. Your voice is yours. Nobody can take it away unless you let them. And you know what? Your mom and I, we want to hear it. Whenever you're ready, even if it's just one word, even if it's just a whisper, but only when you're ready. Okay?" Lila stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Ava, really looked at her, and Ava saw all the fear and love and confusion there. Slowly, Lila walked to her mother and let herself be held. Ava wrapped her arms around her daughter and finally let herself cry too. The next morning, day 4, started differently. Lila came to breakfast on her own and actually sat at the table without prompting. During the music session, when it was time for Lila's pick, she pointed to Ethan's phone. He scrolled through options, watching her face. When he got to a gentle piano piece, she nodded. "Word. Beautiful choice," he said, pressing play. They all sat there, listening. Halfway through, Lila hummed. Just a few notes, barely audible, but everyone heard it. Sophie grinned. Ava's hand flew to her mouth. Ethan just smiled and kept listening. acting like this was the most natural thing in the world. But that afternoon, everything almost fell apart. Grant showed up unannounced, demanding to see his daughter. Ava tried to handle it at the door, but his voice carried. "Who the hell is living here with my daughter, Ava? Some random man? I'll use this in court. I'll prove you're unfit." Ethan appeared in the doorway with both girls behind him. "Hello, I'm Ethan Cole. You must be Grant." Grant looked him up and down with contempt. "Right, the new boyfriend. Let me guess, she's paying you to play house? That's Ava's solution to everything. Throw money at the problem. Actually, she hired me to help Lila. I'm a pediatric speech therapist. My daughter doesn't need some washed-up therapist. She needs stability, which her mother can't provide, Lila." Grant's voice sharpened. "Come here. Tell your father what's going on." Lila pressed closer to Ethan's leg. The fear on her face was palpable. "She doesn't have to do anything," Ethan said firmly. "And I think you should leave. You don't get to tell me what to do with my own daughter." "Stop!" The word was so quiet they almost missed it. But it was there. Lila had spoken. Everyone froze. Lila stepped forward, positioning herself between Ethan and Grant. She looked up at her father, and when she spoke again, her voice was stronger. "Stop yelling. You always yell. That's why I stopped talking. Because you never listen anyway." Grant's face went through several shades of red. "Leela, you don't. She said stop." This time it was Ava stepping forward. Her voice was cold steel. "And I think it's time you listen to your daughter for once. She's found her voice, Grant. And you know what? It wasn't because of you. It was in spite of you. Now get out of my home before I call security." Grant looked between them all. Ava's fierce protectiveness, Ethan's calm strength, the two girls standing together, and Lila's unwavering gaze. He'd lost, and he knew it. "This isn't over," he muttered, but there was no conviction in it. He left, slamming the door behind him. The moment he was gone, Lila burst into tears. But this time, she ran to Ava first, burying her face in her mother's embrace. "I'm sorry, Mommy. I'm sorry I stopped talking. I was just so scared." "No, baby, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't protect you better. I'm so sorry I let it make you feel like you had to disappear." Ava was sobbing now, all pretense abandoned. "I love you so much. I love you more than any merger, any company, anything." Sophie started crying too, because that's what 8-year-olds do when everyone else is crying. Ethan gathered them all in, this strange assembled family, and just held them together while they fell apart and started to heal. That night, after the girls were asleep, Ava and Ethan sat in the living room. Tomorrow was Friday, the merger dinner, the end of their agreement. "I don't want you to leave," Ava said suddenly. "Not after the week. I know that wasn't part of the deal, but I'm asking anyway." Ethan looked at her carefully. "Ava, what exactly are you asking for?" "I don't know. I just know that for the first time in 2 years, my daughter spoke to me, really spoke to me. And I know Sophie lights up this apartment in a way I never thought possible. And I know that you," she stopped, struggling with words. "You make me want to be better, different, more than just Sterling innovations and quarterly reports. I can't be your employee forever, Ava. I know, so maybe you could be something else. Maybe we could figure out what that looks like. Real, not pretend. No contracts, no end dates, just us, trying to build something genuine." Ethan was quiet. "I care about Lila deeply, and I'd be lying if I said I hadn't felt something for you this week. But Ava, we barely know each other. This has all been manufactured circumstances. Then let's create some real ones. After tomorrow, after the merger is settled, let's just see what happens. No pressure, no performance. Just dinner sometimes, and Sophie and Lila being friends, and maybe eventually something more. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if we don't try, we'll never know." Before Ethan could answer, his phone rang. It was late, nearly 11, the hospital. His mother had been admitted with a heart attack. She was stable, but they should come soon. Everything else disappeared. Within 20 minutes, Ethan and Sophie were in an Uber heading to the hospital. Ava stayed with Lila, who was sleeping peacefully for the first time in months. But Ava couldn't sleep. She paced, worried about Ethan's mother, worried about tomorrow's dinner without Ethan, worried about everything that could still go wrong. At 3 a.m., her phone buzzed. A text from Ethan. "Mom's going to be okay. The surgery went well. But I can't leave her tomorrow. I'm so sorry about the dinner." Ava stared at the message. The merger dinner. Mr. Sato and his team, the whole reason for this elaborate charade, and now Ethan wouldn't be there. Part of her panicked. This was $2 billion, her company's future. But a larger part, a newer part that had been growing all week, just felt worried about Ethan and his mother. She typed back, "Family comes first. Stay with your mom. We'll figure out the dinner." The next morning, she called Mr. Sato's office and requested to move the dinner to a more casual meeting at her office instead. His assistant was surprised but agreed. Ava spent the day preparing, getting updates from Ethan about his mother, and watching Lila actually talk to her nanny, full sentences, explaining a game she wanted to play. At 4 p.m., Mr. Sato arrived at Sterling Innovations with his team. Ava met them in the conference room, professional and prepared. But before she could begin her presentation, she did something she'd never done in a business meeting. "Mr. Sato, before we discuss the merger, I need to be honest with you about something." She took a deep breath. "This week, I hired someone to pretend to be my husband to impress you and your team. It was wrong, it was dishonest, and I apologize." The room went silent. Mr. Sato's expression was unreadable. Ava continued, "I was desperate because my ex-husband was threatening to use my daughter's trauma against me. Lila had stopped speaking after our divorce, and I thought if I could present a perfect family image, it would secure the merger and protect her from her father's custody threats. But what happened instead was real. The man I hired, Ethan Cole, he helped my daughter find her voice again, not because he was paid to, but because he genuinely cared. And he taught me that integrity matters more than appearances. I'd rather lose this merger than move forward with any deception." Mr. Sato was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Miss Sterling, where is Mr. Cole now?" "His mother had emergency surgery last night. He's at the hospital with her and his daughter." "And yet you proceeded with this meeting?" "The merger is important to both our companies. I didn't want to waste your time by canceling, even though I knew I was about to torpedo it with the truth." Mr. Sato actually smiled. "In my culture, Miss Sterling, family and honor are everything. You were willing to lose a $2 billion deal to maintain your integrity and support someone who has become important to you. That tells me more about your character than any staged dinner could have." "I don't understand." "My team did their research this week. We spoke to employees, clients, and community members. Do you know what we found? Sterling Innovations has the lowest turnover rate in the industry. Your employees speak of you with respect and loyalty. You funded 3 children's charities in Seattle without any public recognition. And several of your former competitors mentioned that you've always competed fairly, never resorting to corporate sabotage or dirty tactics. That is the business partner I want." Ava felt tears threatening. "You're still interested in the merger?" "On one condition. This Ethan Cole, you will start a foundation for pediatric speech therapy under Sterling Innovations. He will run it. And you, Miss Sterling, will learn to delegate more so you can be the mother your daughter needs." The merger was signed that evening. Ava went straight to the hospital afterward, bringing dinner for Ethan and Sophie. She found them in the waiting room, Sophie asleep across 2 chairs, Ethan looking exhausted but relieved. "How is she?" Ava asked quietly. "Recovering. The surgery was successful. She'll be in the hospital for a few more days, but she's going to be okay." He looked at Ava. "How did the dinner go?" "There was no dinner. I told Mr. Sato the truth, everything." Ethan sat up straight. "Ava, what?" "He approved the merger anyway, said my integrity and your impact on Lila impressed him more than any performance could have. And he made one condition. Sterling Innovations is starting a pediatric speech therapy foundation. You're going to run it. Full salary, benefits, complete creative control. If you want it." Ethan stared at her. "Are you serious?" "Completely, Ethan. You changed everything this week. Not because I paid you to, but because you're exactly who you are. Compassionate, patient, genuine." Lila spoke to me again. Actually spoke, full sentences. She told me about her day, asked if we could bake cookies together this weekend, and said she hoped Sophie could come over. Do you know how long I've waited to hear her voice? I'm glad. She's an amazing kid, Ava. You both are. So what do you say about the foundation? And maybe about dinner next week when your mom is feeling better? A real one, not for show. Just us trying to figure out what this could be. Sophie stirred and opened her eyes. Are we going home? Soon, sweetheart, Ethan said. Then to Ava, yes, to all of it. The foundation, the dinner, the trying. But I have one condition. Name it. We take it slow. For the girls, for us. No rushing, no pressure. We build something real, brick by brick. I can do slow, Ava said. I'm learning patience from an excellent teacher. 3 months later, Ethan's mother was fully recovered and visited the penthouse regularly, charmed by both girls and tentatively approving of Ava. The Sterling Foundation for Child Communication Therapy had opened its doors with a waiting list of families seeking help. Ethan's office walls were covered in drawings from children he'd helped, including several from Lila. Lila was back in school, participating in class, making friends. She still had quiet days, and the trauma of her parents' divorce hadn't magically disappeared. But she was healing, week by week, word by word. She and Sophie were inseparable, not quite sisters yet, but well on their way. Ava had stepped back from day-to-day operations at Sterling Innovations, promoting her brilliant COO and focusing on the foundation's board. She'd started cooking, badly at first, then gradually improving with Ethan's patient guidance. She'd learned that being present mattered more than being perfect. And Ethan and Ava, they were taking it slow, like he'd asked. Dinner dates when the girls were with his mother or Ava's trusted nanny. Long conversations on the balcony after everyone else was asleep. Stolen kisses in the kitchen while making breakfast. Learning each other beyond the crisis that brought them together. On a rainy Saturday evening, so perfectly Seattle, they were all in the living room. Sophie and Lila were building an elaborate fort. Ethan was reading. Ava was attempting to knit something that was supposed to be a scarf but looked more like abstract art. The music was playing softly, a mix of everyone's favorites. Mommy? Lila looked up from the fort. Can I ask you something? Of course, baby. Is Ethan going to be my dad? Like for real? The room went quiet. Ethan lowered his book. Sophie peeked out from the fort. Ava looked at Ethan, a question in her eyes. Well, Ethan said carefully, that's a pretty big decision, Lila. What do you think about that idea? Lila considered this seriously. I think I'd like it. Grant was my dad, but he never listened. You listen, and you help me when I'm scared, and you make mommy laugh, and Sophie's my best friend, so if you were my dad, she'd really be my sister, right? That's exactly right, Ava said, her voice thick with emotion. But Lila, that's something that takes time. We have to make sure it's right for everyone. Okay, Lila said simply. But while you're deciding, can Ethan teach me to make pancakes tomorrow? With the chocolate chip faces? Ethan laughed. Absolutely. It's officially a pancake morning. Later, after the girls were in bed, Ava and Ethan stood on the balcony watching the city lights shimmer in the rain. She asked a fair question, Ethan said. She did. Too soon? Maybe in normal circumstances. But Ava, nothing about us has been normal from the start. I went from serving you coffee to pretending to be your husband to actually falling in love with you in the span of a few months. Normal went out the window a long time ago. Ava turned to face him. You love me? I love you. I love Lila. I love this weird, wonderful family we're building. And I know it's fast and I know it's complicated, but I also know I don't want to lose it. You won't, Ava promised. Ethan, you saved my daughter. But more than that, you saved me. You showed me what really matters. Before you, I was drowning in success and starving for connection. Now I have both. Now I have you, and Lila laughing again, and Sophie bringing light into every room. I love you too. So much it terrifies me sometimes. Good terror or bad terror? Good terror. The kind that means I actually have something to lose, which means I finally found something worth having. Ethan pulled her close, and they stood there together, watching their city, planning their future, grateful for desperate schemes that turned into something real. 6 months after that, they made it official. Not a big wedding. Ava had done that before, and it ended badly. This was small, intimate, just family and close friends in the living room of the penthouse that had become home. Lila and Sophie were junior bridesmaids in matching dresses they'd picked out together. Ethan's mother cried happy tears. Even Mr. Sato attended, bringing a traditional blessing for the couple. When it was time for vows, Ava spoke first. Ethan, you walked into my life when I'd forgotten how to live in it. You taught me that strength isn't about control. It's about vulnerability. That success isn't measured in mergers, but in moments. like Lila's first words after silence, like Sophie's laughter filling these rooms, like learning to make terrible pancakes at 6 a.m. because that's when we're all together. You saved my daughter. You saved me. And I promise to spend every day proving that you made the right choice. Ethan's vows were simple. Ava, you were so busy trying to look perfect that you forgot you already were, just not in the ways you thought mattered. You're fierce, brilliant, and you love harder than anyone I've ever met. You took a risk on a cafe worker with a broken heart, and somehow we healed each other. I promise to keep listening, to keep showing up, to keep making chocolate chip pancake faces for our girls. Because yes, Lila, they're our girls now. Both of them, forever. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. After the ceremony, during the reception, Lila pulled the microphone away from the best man who was about to give a speech. Wait, she said clearly, confidently. I want to say something. Everyone turned to look at her. Ava's heart swelled with pride at her daughter's courage. When my parents got divorced, I stopped talking because I thought if I was quiet enough, no one would notice how broken everything was. But then Ethan came, and he showed me that my voice mattered. And my mom learned to listen, really listen. And now I have Sophie as my sister, which is the best thing ever. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for showing me that families can be whatever we make them. And thank you for being brave enough to try something crazy that turned into something perfect. The applause was thunderous. Ava was openly crying. Ethan scooped Lila up in a hug. Sophie joined in. The photographer captured the moment. The four of them, wrapped in joy. The blended family that started with a desperate proposal and became something beautifully, wonderfully real. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, the family of four stood together by the window, watching the Seattle skyline sparkle against the night sky. You know what's funny? Ava said. I thought I was hiring you to save my merger, but you ended up saving so much more. We saved each other, Ethan corrected. That's what families do. Are we a real family now? Sophie asked. Officially? We were a real family the moment we chose to be, Ethan said. The paperwork just caught up with our hearts. Lila leaned against Ava. Mommy, I'm glad you paid Ethan to be our husband, even if it was weird. Everyone laughed because it was weird. It was desperate and unconventional and probably shouldn't have worked, but it did. Because underneath the scheme and the merger and the money, there were four people who needed each other, who chose each other, who built something real out of something fake. And isn't that what love is, really? Taking what you're given, even if it starts imperfectly, and turning it into something worth keeping? The music played softly. Rain fell gently against the windows. Two girls leaned against their parents, and Ava Sterling, who'd once measured her worth in quarterly reports and shareholder value, finally understood what true wealth looked like. It looked like this, like home, like family, like love that started as a transaction and became transformation. Hey, Ethan said softly, thank you for taking a chance on me, on us. Thank you for saying yes, Ava replied, for showing up, for staying. Always, he promised, and he meant it. If you've made it this far, thank you for being part of our journey. Hit that subscribe button if you believe in second chances and unconventional families. Drop a comment below telling us what moment touched you most. Was it Lila's first words, the honest confession to Mr. Sato, or that beautiful wedding speech? And smash that like button if you believe love can bloom in the most unexpected places. Because this story, it's a reminder that sometimes the best things in life come from our most desperate moments. That healing isn't linear. That family isn't just about blood. It's about showing up, listening, and choosing each other every single day. Years passed, and the Sterling Cole household became something of a legend in Seattle's tight-knit community. The foundation Ethan ran had helped over 300 children find their voices. Some of them came from divorced homes like Lila. Others had experienced trauma, developmental delays, or simply needed someone who understood that communication goes beyond words. Ethan's approach was always the same. Meet children where they are, listen to what they're not saying, and create safe spaces for them to emerge. He'd turned the foundation into a training center too, teaching other therapists his methods. The waiting list stayed long, but the success rate was remarkable. Ava had found her own calling beyond corporate leadership. She'd started a support network for single mothers, navigating high-pressure careers and custody battles. Once a month, her penthouse hosted gatherings where women shared resources, legal advice, childcare solutions, and most importantly, honest conversations about the guilt and exhaustion that came with trying to do it all. You know what I told someone last week? Ava mentioned one evening while she and Ethan prepared dinner together, a ritual they'd maintained through everything. She was crying because she'd missed her daughter's school play for a board meeting. And I told her about the time I missed Lila's entire kindergarten year because I was too busy building an empire to notice my daughter was disappearing. And what did she say? Ethan asked, chopping vegetables with practiced ease. She said, but you figured it out eventually. There's still time for me too. And Ethan, seeing that hope in her eyes, that's what your foundation does for families. That's what we're building together. Hope. Sophie, now 12, appeared in the kitchen doorway with Lila right behind her. The girls were inseparable, despite their different personalities. Sophie was outgoing and dramatic, involved in theater and student government. Lila was quieter but equally passionate, channeling her energy into art and poetry. She'd started a blog about her journey with selective mutism that had gained a surprising following among other children and teens struggling with similar issues. Mom, Dad, Sophie said. She'd started calling Ava Mom about a year after the wedding, a choice that had made everyone cry happy tears. Can we talk to you about something? The parental radar immediately activated. Ethan and Ava exchanged glances. Of course, Ava said, setting down her knife. What's going on? The girl sat at the kitchen counter, looking nervous but determined. Lila spoke first. You know how the foundation helps kids find their voices? Yes, Ethan said carefully. Well, Sophie and I want to start a youth program, like peer mentoring, where kids who've been through it help other kids who are going through it now. We could meet once a week, do art projects and group activities, create a space where it's safe to be silent or loud or whatever you need to be. Sophie jumped in, and I could help with the drama therapy side, using performance and role play to help kids practice communication in low-pressure scenarios. Lila could lead the art therapy component. We've already sketched out a whole curriculum. Lila pulled out a folder because, of course, they'd prepared a presentation. The next 20 minutes were spent reviewing their surprisingly thorough plan. They'd researched similar programs, identified potential challenges, even worked out a proposed budget. When they finished, Ethan sat back impressed. This is incredible, girls. Really thoughtful and well planned. But, Lila sensed the hesitation. But you're 12 and 13, Ava said gently. This is a big responsibility, and working with vulnerable children requires training, supervision, legal considerations. We know, Sophie interrupted. That's why we do it under the Foundation's umbrella, with trained therapists supervising. We wouldn't be in charge of anything clinical. We'd just be us. Kids who understand what it's like, who can relate in ways adults sometimes can't. Ethan looked at Ava. She looked back. A whole conversation happened in that glance, the kind that happens between people who've learned to communicate beyond words. We'll need to discuss it with the Foundation's board, Ethan said, and set very clear boundaries about what you can and can't do, and your schoolwork can't suffer. Does that mean yes? Lila's eyes lit up. It means we'll seriously consider it, Ava said, but I'm proud of you both for thinking beyond yourselves, for wanting to use your experiences to help others. That's exactly the kind of young women we hoped you'd become. Later that night, after the girls had gone to their rooms, Ethan found Ava in her home office, looking at old photos on her computer. Pictures from before, when Lila was small and silent, when Ava's eyes looked hollow despite her professional success, when everything seemed irreparably broken. Reminiscing? He asked, coming up behind her chair and resting his hands on her shoulders. Marveling, actually, at how different everything is. Look at this. She pointed to a photo from 2 years before they met. I remember this day, Lila's 6th birthday party. I hired the best event planner in Seattle, rented out an entire play center, and invited 30 kids. And look at her face. In the photo, little Lila sat alone in a corner while chaos swirled around her, looking lost and overwhelmed. I thought giving her the biggest party meant I was a good mother, I didn't realize she just wanted me to sit with her and play quietly with dolls. I was so focused on appearances that I missed what she actually needed. You were doing your best with what you knew then, Ethan said. That's all any of us can do. And now she wants to help other kids. Our daughter, our brave, compassionate daughter, wants to turn her pain into purpose. How did we get so lucky? I think luck had very little to do with it. You made a choice, Ava. A desperate, crazy choice that could have backfired spectacularly. But you did it because you were willing to try anything to reach your daughter. That kind of love changes everything. Ava stood and turned to face him. Do you ever regret it, saying yes to my insane proposal? Your life was simpler before. Simpler isn't better. Before you, I was hiding, playing it safe, afraid to use my gifts because they reminded me of everything I'd lost. You gave me permission to live again, to try again, to believe that broken people can build something beautiful. He cupped her face. I've never regretted a single moment, even the terrifying ones. There have been a lot of those, and there will be more. Sophie's going to be a teenager soon, full teenager, not just technically. Lila's still processing trauma. We're going to face challenges we can't even imagine yet, but we'll face them together. That's the difference now. None of us are alone anymore. The Foundation's board approved the youth mentoring program with modifications. Sophie and Lila would co-lead alongside a licensed therapist, focusing on peer support and creative expression rather than clinical intervention. The first session happened on a Saturday afternoon in the Foundation's bright, welcoming community room. 12 children showed up, ranging from age 8 to 14. Some hadn't spoken in months. Others struggled with stuttering, social anxiety, or communication differences. All of them looked nervous. Sophie stood up first, vibrant and unafraid. Hi everyone, I'm Sophie. My mom died when I was 6, and for a while, I thought if I talked enough, filled every silence, I could keep from feeling the quiet she left behind. Turns out that didn't work. What worked was having people who let me be sad sometimes and loud other times and taught me that all of it was okay. Then Lila, quieter but steady. I'm Lila. I didn't talk for over a year because I thought my voice didn't matter, that no one wanted to hear what I had to say. But I learned that silence can be loud too. It's its own kind of communication. And when I was ready to speak again, the people who loved me were still there, still listening. That's what we want this group to be, a place where your voice matters, whether you use it today or not. Over the next hour, the kids made art, played cooperative games, and slowly began to open up. One boy who hadn't spoken in school for 3 months whispered a joke to another kid, and they both giggled. A girl with a severe stutter read her poem aloud, and when she struggled, everyone waited patiently. No rushing, no finishing her sentences. By the end, the room felt warmer, safer. Watching from the observation window, Ava felt tears slide down her face. Ethan squeezed her hand. They're remarkable, she whispered. Both of them. How did they get so wise? They learned from the best, Ethan said. They learned that vulnerability is strength, that asking for help is brave, that families can be built, not just born into. They learned it by watching you transform. The program became one of the Foundation's most successful initiatives. News outlets picked up the story. Local at first, then regional, then national. Former selective mute teen helps others find their voice, read one headline. CEO's daughter turns trauma into triumph, read another. But for the Sterling Cole family, the media attention was secondary to the real work happening every Saturday, the connections being formed. The children slowly emerged from their shells. The parents cried grateful tears as their kids made progress. One afternoon, about 6 months into the program, a woman approached Ava in the hallway after a session. She looked vaguely familiar. Miss Sterling? I don't know if you remember me. I'm Jennifer Hartley. I attended one of your support groups for single mothers about 2 years ago. I was the one who'd missed my daughter's school play. Of course, Ava said warmly. How are you? How's your daughter? She's wonderful. Actually, she's in there. Jennifer pointed toward the community room. She's been struggling with anxiety-related mutism since my divorce. But today, in your daughter's group, she spoke for the first time in 4 months. She told another girl that her drawing was beautiful. Just those 4 words. But I heard them, and her voice broke. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story, for creating this space, for showing people like me that there's hope on the other side of the darkness. After Jennifer left, Ava stood in the hallway for a long moment, overwhelmed by the ripple effects of one desperate decision made years ago. She'd hired Ethan to fake a marriage and save a merger. Instead, he'd saved her daughter, then saved her, and now together, they were part of something that was saving countless other families. The universe had a funny way of working things out. That evening, the family had dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant, a quarterly tradition they'd maintained. Over pasta and laughter, they talked about everything and nothing. Sophie's upcoming audition for the school musical, Lila's poetry reading at the local bookstore next week, Ethan's new research on music therapy for children with communication disorders, Ava's latest board meeting. "Can I say something mushy?" Sophie asked suddenly. "Always," Ethan replied. "I was thinking today about how different my life would be if Mom hadn't gotten sick, if she hadn't died. And obviously, I wish she was still here. I'll always wish that. But I also realized that this life, this family, it's pretty amazing too. Like I got a mom again." She looked at Ava. "And I got a sister." She looked at Lila. "And Dad got to be himself again instead of just sad. So I guess what I'm saying is that even when terrible things happen, beautiful things can grow from them, if you're brave enough to let them." Lila reached across the table and grabbed Sophie's hand. "You're my favorite person in the whole world. Just so you know." "Right back at you, sis." Ethan cleared his throat, suspiciously emotional. "When did you two get so grown up?" "We learned from you guys," Lila said simply. "You showed us that love is a choice, that family is built through showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." On the drive home, with the girls listening to music in the back seat, Ava reached over and took Ethan's hand. "Do you remember what you said to me that first night, when I asked what you wanted after the week was over?" "I said we should take it slowly," Ethan recalled. "And I said I could do slow. But Ethan, I'm so glad we didn't actually go that slow. I'm glad we dove in, messy and imperfect, and figuring it out as we went. No regrets?" "Not a single one." "Well, maybe I regret that first pancake attempt where I nearly set the kitchen on fire." Ethan laughed. "That was memorable. The smoke alarm still has PTSD. From the back seat, Lila called out, "Are you guys being cute again? Because it's gross, but also kind of sweet." "Definitely gross," Sophie agreed. "But we'll allow it." The family pulled into their building's garage, and as they rode the elevator up to the penthouse, Ava looked around at her people, her husband, her daughters, the unconventional family, and felt a peace she'd never imagined possible as dark days before Ethan. She'd set out to save a merger. Instead, she'd found salvation of a completely different kind. Years later, when Lila was in college studying art therapy and Sophie was pursuing theater with a focus on therapeutic drama, they would tell people the story of how their family came together. They'd talk about the desperate CEO who hired a cafe worker to play her husband, about the mute child who learned to speak again, about the widower who found his purpose, about the blended family that shouldn't have worked but did. And people would ask, what made it work? What's the secret? The answer was always the same. There was no secret. Just people who chose each other day after day through the messy and the beautiful, who learned that authentic love matters more than perfect appearances, who discovered that sometimes the family you build is stronger than the family you're born into. But on this night, as they settled into their home, girls sprawling on the couch for movie night, Ethan making popcorn, Ava finally learning to relax without constantly checking her phone, none of them were thinking about the future or the past. They were just present, just together, just home. And really, what else mattered? Thank you so much for staying with us through this entire journey. If this story reminded you that it's never too late for a second chance, never too late to heal, never too late to build the family you need, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Subscribe to hear more stories about love, redemption, and the beautiful messiness of life. Hit that like button if you believe in the power of choosing each other every single day. Because at the end of the day, that's what love is. Not a feeling that happens to you, but a choice you make, over and over again, to show up, listen, and build something real out of whatever life gives you. Even if it starts with a crazy proposal in a park, especially if it starts that way.